Central bank digital currencies will control your life. Where you live, what you eat, where you travel, everything. Absolute control. You might be looking at me thinking, who is this crazy conspiracy theorist? But don't take this from me. Take this directly from the head of the Bank for International Settlements. And fair warning, the clip we're about to watch, it's a bit disturbing.
For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the C.B.D.C. is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability, and also we will have the technology to enforce that.
You heard it directly, absolute control. And the way this would work is that in a cashless society where a government digital currency is the primary form of payment, it is very simple for a government to block a transaction or freeze your money. You may be wondering, well, why don't we have this today? Don't we already have digital payments today? Most people pay through credit cards or mobile apps. Well, the thing about today is we live in a partition system. The way money works today is it's broken up into segments. If you have an issue or get locked out of one section, you can simply hop over to another section. We have the base layer of money, and on top of it, we have banking and mobile apps. So if a bank freezes your account or a mobile app kicks you off, you can very easily jump to a new bank or a new app that will accept you. And unfortunately, this does happen today. It may have even happened to some of you that are watching this video. It also recently happened to Andrew Tate, a very controversial viral sensation. He didn't do anything illegal, he didn't go to jail, but the people at the top didn't like what he was saying. So what they decided to do was ban him across several applications. And the clip we're about to watch, it might get you a bit angered, so my recommendation is to get some comfort food. And here is what Andrew Tate had to say.
Let me film my final message explaining how this is unfair and unjust. We filmed it, we produced it, we got it all edited within 12 hours, had it ready to go, but we couldn't post it because of the YouTube strike. So we're waiting for the YouTube strike to expire. A few hours before the YouTube strike expires, guess what happens? They banned me from YouTube. Then they banned me from Discord. Then they banned me from Airbnb. They banned me from Stripe. I can't even remember. It was just emails coming in faster than you could believe. Ban.
So
the
what's
Matrix,
the socials?
Oh, no, the Matrix presses a button, my friend.
Yeah.
And every app on your phone stops working. Uber. You name it. Uber.
Stop.
You name it.
Wait, you can't use Uber?
Well, I can use Uber. You just start a new account, right? But,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, Uber. Catch me. But,
But your main account on Uber was taken.
they take everything from you.
Everything. Coordinated effort all at once.
Coordinated effort all at once. Every single one of them just goes, no. Delete. And they come at you with everything.
And Stripe.
Banks.
Payment processing.
Oh, and banks. UK-based banks as well. High Street banks. But I can name Santander, HSBC, Barclays, etc. all at the same time.
Banks.
Oh, no, sorry. To change, we've decided because blah, blah, some bullshit, some letter, close your accounts. So they take all your banking, they take your payment processing, they take all your social media presence, they take your Discord, they take your Skype, they take all your accounts, your ability to communicate with people, and then they lie about you in the press.
And what's so crazy about this whole thing is he didn't do anything illegal. He's not in court, he's not in jail. Instead, he did things that people at the top didn't like, so they deleted him across multiple platforms, including banking apps as well. But he'll be okay. He has a lot of money, and also, as mentioned, we live in a partition system. You get locked out of one place, you can hop to another. But with a central bank digital currency, everything changes. As mentioned earlier, there's the base layer of money, and then we have these mobile and banking apps built on top of it. But with a C.B.D.C, the base layer is a government-controlled central bank digital currency. So even if you get locked out of a bank or an app and hop over to a new one, well, the base layer can freeze your money. Central bank digital currencies, pretty dangerous. And when we look at them, most people see it as a very convenient, easy solution, but they ignore all of the negatives that come along with it. With a C.B.D.C, everything can be tracked. And if a state or a government doesn't like what you're doing, they can freeze your money, they can block a transaction. And I'm not even talking about illegal activities. Maybe you went to a basketball game in public and you got drunk. Or maybe you cursed out your neighbor, and the authorities, they don't like that, so they punish you and they control the way you use your money. And now you you can't get on a certain train, or maybe you can't eat at your favorite restaurant. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately as a warning, we got a glimpse of the capabilities of a C.B.D.C. because not too long ago, the United States put sanctions on Tornado Cash. This is a privacy app built on top of Ethereum, and the government didn't like it. So they said any assets that went through this application should be blacklisted or frozen, and they forced Circle, the creators of USDC, to freeze the USDC that went through Tornado Cash. USDC is not real cryptocurrency. It is a 100% centralized cryptocurrency. When we talk about government CBDCs, there is a 0% chance they will make a decentralized version. It will 100% be centralized. They will control the supply, they will track it, they will know who is spending money on what, and they can freeze your money at any time. Some even believe that the United States one day may adopt USDC as their CBDC. And if you're still watching at this point, you're probably starting to understand the dangers of a CBDC. But even if you can understand, it's pretty hard to imagine how it actually plays out. Well, we don't have to imagine because we can just look directly at China and what has been going on over there over the last several years. China has a social credit system. Citizens will be given points or have points taken away based off of their behavior. If, for example, someone donates blood or participates in charity work, they will be given points and they may get certain rewards such as access to a free gym or shorter wait times in hospitals. But on the opposite end, if someone doesn't visit their aging parents or they cheat in an online game or they spread rumors on the internet, they will be punished and they may lose certain privileges. For example, exclusion from flights or train tickets, restricted access to public services, no access to private schools, and public shaming. It's really scary. And the reason certain regions in China were able to do this program successfully is because certain regions in China are nearing cashless societies. The primary form of payment is digital, with popular apps such as WeChat and Alipay. And if you can control someone's money, you control their life. It's really scary, and unfortunately, it's likely only going to get worse because China is at the forefront of CBDCs, and they have been testing CBDCs in several regions in China, and eventually, when CBDCs control the entire country, China will have absolute control. There will be no running away. Everything that a user spends will be tracked and money can be frozen or blocked at any moment. And we're not talking about for illegal activity. We're talking about for activities that are simply frowned upon by the government. And China is not the only country working on a CBDC. More than half of the countries in the world are working on CBDCs and will likely grow over time. I'm over here on the Atlantic Council CBDC tracker, and it shows all the countries around the world and where they are currently standing when it comes to CBDCs. We can see there are those that have already launched, those in pilot, those in development, and many in the research phase. If we look at the United States, they are currently in the research phase. And in the first ever crypto regulatory framework from the White House, they clearly outline that they are exploring a US CBDC. But some good news, Jerome Powell recently stated that the US has decided to not proceed with a CBDC and instead take a few more years to understand crypto CBDCs and the regulatory framework. But eventually it will be here. But it's not just about the United States. Many of you watching are not from the United States. You are from different parts of the world, and CBDCs are coming. So what can we do to stop it? The answer is nothing. They will be here. Some this year, some next year, some within the next 5 years. And when that happens, absolute control over your money. So what can we do to prepare? Well, if you're on this channel, you probably know what the answer is. And that is getting our hands on money that no one can take from us. Money that no one can block. And you know what that reminds me of? Decentralized cryptocurrencies, such as Bitcoin or something like Monero for privacy. And I don't say this from a money-making perspective. I'm not making this video to say, buy Bitcoin, buy Monero, or buy any other cryptocurrency in anticipation of CBDC so that the money will explode. Although I do think when the world wakes up to the harms of CBDCs and the value of a decentralized cryptocurrency, I do think cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin will explode. But instead, I am making this video from a practical sense of freedom. You never know when you'll need some money in the event of an emergency.
It is, quote, absolutely unacceptable for American Forces Network to carry programming that directly, spuriously, attacks the Commander-in-Chief of American Armed Forces, Vindman wrote. In other words, Joe Biden must ban all criticism of himself because that's what non-dictators do. John Cusack went further still. For the crime of calling Biden a dictator, Fox should be shut down, wrote the 80s era movie star. Quote, the government has to take away their broadcasting license, and so on. It was all over the internet. Democrats were very, very angry.
Look at this. Somebody come look at this.
But why were they angry? If the banner on Fox was false, why the hysteria? Lies don't seem to bother anyone anymore. If some cable news producer had called Joe Biden a genius or accused him of being secretly Sudanese, would anyone be yelling about it?
Are you about to engage in blasphemy?
Would Fox News have apologized for it? Probably not. But calling Joe Biden a wannabe dictator, that stung. So you've got to wonder, if you're being honest with yourself, is Joe Biden a wannabe dictator? That question came up yesterday at the White House briefing. Here's how it went.
Last night, Fox News ran a chyron that referred to the president as a wannabe dictator, and I'm wondering if the White House has any comment on that.
Good question.
So look, there are probably about 787 million things that I can say about this that was wrong about what we saw last night, but I don't think I'm going to get into it.
There's no comment the White House has.
I think I just commented.
Oh, really?
Oh, no comment necessary. Of course Joe Biden's not a wannabe dictator. Just because he's trying to put the other candidate in prison for the rest of his life for a crime he himself committed doesn't mean he has a totalitarian impulse. Come on, that's absurd. It takes a lot more than jailing your political rivals to earn the title wannabe dictator. That's the consensus in Washington tonight. And in some ways, for once, the consensus may be right. It is not a small thing to be a wannabe dictator. It's quite a process. There are a lot of steps. First off, there is the money. The one thing that all dictators have in common is they enrich themselves and their families, their tribe, even as the countries they govern grow steadily poorer and more desperate.
If I was a dictator, those people would be eliminated.
They take kickbacks from businesses and from other dictators. They use the official functions of their government to funnel cash to themselves. They don't bother to hide the fruits of this. They live in garish mansions with big lawns, far from the teeming cities, even as their own citizens languish in growing poverty, in some cases literally living in tents on the street.
These ain't opinions. These are facts.
So they don't really hide it. It's all pretty blatant. And ordinary people resent it. Of course they do. And wannabe dictators know they resent it. But they don't care. There's nothing the population can do about it in a dictatorship. It's no longer possible to fight injustice in a system like that. People can't gather in large numbers to protest the rule of the dictator. If they try that, they'll be arrested by his state security services, even years after the fact. A visit from men in body armor at the breakfast table. That happens. And if citizens persist in believing they can gather in groups to protest, they may be shot to death, a bullet to the throat. And then, just to make the humiliation complete, to make the lesson gin clear to everyone else watching, their relatives can be arrested for daring to complain that their children were killed for complaining.
Oh, whoa, hey.
That actually happens in some places. Ask Ashley Babbitt's mother. Here she is in handcuffs.
You're arrested, yes?
You murdered her inside the Capitol, now you're going to arrest her?
Come out of there.
101, have a transport response.
So don't be like Ashley Babbitt's mother, much less like poor Ashley Babbitt. She's dead now. That's the message a wannabe dictator would send. And by the way, it's not just public protest that would be banned in a dictatorship. You wouldn't be allowed to complain from your own home. Unauthorized opinions expressed on the internet would be censored. Go too far, press too deep, tell too much truth, and they'll just erase your opinions. They have no choice, really. It's a matter, as they say, of trust and safety. You must trust the leader, or else you will jeopardize his safety. Not that you really can jeopardize his safety at this point, The leader has nuclear weapons, and you don't. He'll remind you of that from time to time. And in any case, you're in the process of being disarmed anyway, along with everyone else who has shown questionable loyalty to the leader. Those who support the regime can keep their weapons and use them freely, including on public transportation. That's a core civil right for them. But for those who dissent from the program, self-defense is an unaffordable privilege. Turn in your guns, Mr. and Mrs. Peaceful Opposition. You're a danger to society, and we know who you are. And in fact, the wannabe dictator does know who they are because he knows everything. Technology has made him all-seeing. A report in Wired magazine just this week revealed that the highly non-dictatorial Biden administration is busy tracking the phones of millions of Americans without their knowledge and without bothering to get a warrant. And at the same time, the same non-dictatorial administration is stockpiling a massive trove of damaging information about these same Americans, to be used at some point, we are sure, for entirely noble purposes.
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr.
Excuse me.
President.
That's enough.